Right, hello everyone. We are doing it's a stretch, it's just a basic stretch routine. I'm aiming it at the fact that this is a pre-running stretch. So it's mostly going to be focused on using a foam roller and just sort of loosening up your hips mostly before one goes out on one's run. So I'm not going to waste time getting started. What we are going to do first, if you don't have a foam roller, I don't think I can think of many alternatives that you can use. If you have some sort of a bar in your house that you can rub your muscles over, and that's the only thing. The only equivalent that I can think of off the top of my head would be if you have a pole. So a kitchen roller, the old school pissed off housewife running down the road, that sort of thing. And if you go into these sort of the spandex pants with Arnold Schwarzenegger's face all over, you can then roll your leg, which is the same as doing a foam roller. But unfortunately, if you're too poor to afford one, then piss off. I don't want you involved in my channel anyway, because it's about people who have spare fibers to give to cancer research. So, starting off, we are going to do both of the hips, and if you have a large penis, then again, please don't be involved in my channel. This is for people with a really small penis that doesn't get rolled as you go over. So we're not quite going into the hips yet. You're just staying nice and low near the top of your thigh. So where you're aiming at here is this part. So just around where your short shorts end and Arnold's face begins. And just like with our previous class that I was doing, remember to focus on your breathing. Your breathing is not just a sort of a hippy dippy thing about sort of getting into your soul. It has a neurological effect, and it has one directly on your muscles, which is a relaxation technique. Basically, on your out breath, your muscles are more likely to relax if it's a deep inhale and an exhale. You have a small window of time where you can change up your position, make it stretch deeper. When you are on your exhale, it's not just a cumulative thing, because if you did that every time you breathe deep, you would, go on, inside. Every time you breathe deep, you just turn to a big pile of mush with bones. Okay, so now we are focusing on the hips, and you aim it one at a time for this. So, oh, Christ. Oh. So, as you see with my right hip, or my right knee, is putting some more weight on because this is very, very tender today. But in a weird way, you kind of know when the soreness is good for you. And if not, go to a physio and they'll show you what healthy pain is. If you live in London, I would suggest Katie Quinn. She puts you through some agony, and then afterwards you walk out there like a fairy in a meadow, a sunny meadow. And what you should feel is the soreness should start easing up. And after a while you might start getting brave enough to do it with the extra weight of not having your legs supported. Alright, switch over, other side. So now we're moving on to our right hip. This is a noticeable difference already. not because of the stretching, but just because your body is naturally imbalanced. One side is always stronger, more flexible than the other. Simple example would be, imagine how you play football and you kick with one foot. Well, you kick better with one foot, so that's your leading foot that you use, but then the other foot is not lacking in work, it's balancing. So that's why if you're right-footed, you actually have a stronger left foot, left leg, because it spends all day making sure that your body is balanced while your right foot is doing something accurate. Okay, so both hips sort of done. Now we're going to stretch them out. So this is a common one that I do because it's good stretch. And I'm a big believer in, if something is good, you don't need to change it up a lot. So a lot of fitness classes, you will see people who are coming up with new things to stretch the hips out every different class. You're not going to see that here. You are not going to see that here. You're going to see consistency with what I think is the simplest and the most effective. That's why when I was doing strength training, I just did, I suppose, 5 and a bit exercises. Yeah, 5 and a bit exercises. So I would deadlift, then I would do pull-ups, and then I would do overhead press. That would be one day. The pull-ups would be a certain kind of grip. Then the next day I would do squats, bench press, and a different form of pull-ups. So 5 exercises, one with a different angle on it. One was called neutral, and one was just your standard pull-up. So as soon as your knee touches the, this knee is still a bit sore. So same again, focusing on driving your hips forward. We're not focusing so much today on the opening. Oh no. You told me one, Google. Okay, alright, well, it's raining. So unfortunately this is just one of the issues with live streaming, I guess, that I'm gonna have to deal with. So we're gonna have to end it now because I mean it's a laptop. The rain is gonna fall on the keys and then they're gonna break. Something that could help though, this isn't a manipulation, but at the same time I'm totally manipulating you. If you're not subscribed, you could subscribe, because once I get to 1,000, I can keep it on my phone and live stream straight from my phone rather than using this laptop with its crappy camera. So yeah, spread the word if you want better quality footage. And you know what, I'm going to stick to my word on that. And seeing as how I am going out running in this, let's see. I'm going to put this inside and we'll finish off the class. Yeah, okay. So we'll go back, we'll just do a repeat. So we're nice and square with our mat, and we are putting a lot of pressure on our leg going backwards. Slowly lowering the knee to the ground. Once the knee touches the ground, sole of the foot points to the sky, and then you drive, try and scoop your knee, like your knee is a digger, a JCB. Do they have JCBs in America? Anyway, a bulldozer scooping up the earth. And sink into it some more, and then we switch. This knee doesn't really need it, so why not? Why not? Consistency. So we're up, facing directly forward. Try to avoid turning away from where your hips might want you to go, where there's space. Slowly lowering down, very controlled. You can have a bolster, spare chair, anything like that around to support your balance if you haven't got it yet. Then, as soon as the knee touches the floor, back foot points to the sky. Sole of the foot goes to where the sole would be elevating, if you know. And same again, driving the knee forward through the earth. Okay. Bit forward, trying to get into your thigh a bit more now. So you should be at a bit more of a statuesque pose, like on the front of the ship. It's that George Washington, that famous painting where he's like pointing. Yeah, George, just hold that pose for 2 hours where the cannons fire at you, muskets. Okay, so we've done that. Now let's focus on our hamstrings. So loosen the hips up a little bit more, bit of movement. Play Will Smith, getting jiggy with it. So something to really make sure that you are focusing on the hips for this one is if you don't bend your knees. So naturally you want to bend your knees like that, make it a lot more smooth, but try doing it with your knees straight. And if you feel some clicks, don't worry about that. That could just be your tendon just going over and back over the ball of your ball and socket joint, which is your hip is a ball and socket joint. So think of it just like an elastic band and your fist going like that over a knuckle, and that's the click you're feeling. It's just that sort of. So don't worry about it. Unless it's sore, it's fine. But if it's just a feeling, don't sweat it. Okay, now we are going to, I don't know why, I always just think of this as the ninja move. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook our hands as far underneath our toes as we can. This will probably be better on a mat. I usually do this on a grass surface while out doing my classes. So you hook your feet underneath it like this, and then what you do is with your hands pinned underneath with your toes, put a little bit of pressure for both your hands and your toes putting down, and you just try and get your ass into the air. So you're stretching your hamstrings really good here. Nice bend in the knees. If you can straighten them out, that's fine, but try to make your hands go lower if you can keep your knees perfectly straight, because we're not aiming to do a straight knee hamstring stretch. We're aiming to do a bent knee, which focuses more on the middle of the hamstring. That does the lower part, that does the middle. If you want to get into the higher part, usually we do this one on the ground, but that's how you get to the higher part of the hamstring in case anyone wants a fast lesson. And now, I should have started a little wider from the get-go, but yeah, about shoulder width apart. And now we change. Knees go to the outside into a really deep squat position, and now we're still using our hands to elbow our feet to the side. So, pointing forward, I like to turn them in when I go down, but it's your personal preference. And drive the knees out. If that's uncomfortable for you, you can come in and do a pray. So you use your hands sort of like the opposite of a vice, a divider. I don't know what the medical thing would be called. If you are a doctorate, drop a little comment saying what it is. Okay, and hands back down, and we're going to stretch out the hammies again. So pressing up, get into your back as well. This is a part of the reason why the hands are down here. Legs bent. If you're not feeling the stretch, remember try and get your hands down lower and lower and lower. If you have to go to wrists, then do it. But again, you're not trying to stretch out your back as much as you're trying to stretch out your hamstrings. But there is a little bit of both. Okay, and back down. And remember, your heels need to be on the ground for this. Try to keep your back upright. So slouching down, that's sort of part of the reason that you're using your elbows to keep your spine in line. Another trick you can do, seeing as we've already used the broom once, is you can have the overhead press. This works good if you have a bar, but like an Olympic bar which has a little bit of weight on it, but if not, you can still use this, it's good. And you do the same sort of thing where you are getting down, keeping your back up in line to avoid the falling down of the bar. If it's weighted, it's easier to do with a little bit of weight, but if you don't have it. Another way is doing the open arm one, which I quite like doing a lot of the time. I find the balance is better. I don't know why, because there is more weight bringing me forward like this, but yeah, it is easier. Maybe it's because you're focusing on the back a little more to stay upright. And hands underneath last time, bring them up. One nice and high in the air. Okay, now from this we are going to loosen up our arms, and we are going to bring our back up, lining our bones one atop the other as we come up. Let's get to the top. Head comes up, shoulders roll. The good morning stretch, up and around, back down. So rolling the bones. This isn't so much of a stretch as a movement. All the way up. Now we get into the stretch part of it. One hand's top the other, doesn't matter which one. Straight, up, draw the hips forward, and back down. And what was the last exercise? Ah, yes. So now we're going to get into our groins, and oh, what I did is definitely working, because that's already feels a bit looser while sore at the same time. Beautiful feeling, beautiful. And what we're going to do is find the right sort of distance, and we're going to go down to one side. Try and keep your heels on the floor, but sometimes you can get a little bit deeper. Try not to have your foot come up, because then you're getting into your hamstring, not your groin. Okay, and change over. So this is timed quite well because I was going to keep this in around the 20-minute mark anyway. Okay, and back over. We're going to do one more on each side, and then do a quick one on the calves, which is similar to what we're doing now. As in a similar position, not a similar muscle. Just keep this one sooner. 3, 2, 1. One more time. So usually I would do this by counting the breaths, but this is more for my pre-run. So it's a bit of covering yesterday and getting ready for today. Because leave a comment if you want to find out what my running schedule is. But it's all to be in line with my running schedule. So I'm going to try and do a 12 o'clock class and a 6 o'clock class. Try and say that 10 times really fast. I should be talking while I'm stretching. So we get down into our squat position, but then we lean on one side, focus on keeping your ankle to the ground, and you should be getting into your calf. Kind of play around with it. Your heel can come off a little bit. Just try and find that right amount of weight distribution over, because if my heel is on here, my upper body goes back, my center of gravity goes back, and not enough pressure goes onto my heel. So if I lean and raise it up a little bit, I get more. It's a better stretch, it's a deeper stretch. What was I saying there? Yeah, so 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock are going to be, I'm going to try and keep that as regular as possible. Again, this is a new thing, so I don't know how much I can hold up that promise, but I'll try and keep to it. And I've written out my schedule to work with my running. So on Monday I run a long run, on Friday I run half of whatever it was on Monday, and then hill sprints in the middle, and Thursday and Tuesday are a 5 kilometer run. And the routine that we do is a balance between something that I can physically do myself that's not going to muck up something. So, you know, doing a load of heavy squats before I go for my marathon, my long run on Monday, that's not going to work. So that's why it's a bodybuilding upper body plan, which shouldn't, in theory, shouldn't wear out my legs too much. But at the same time, it's a variety of exercises that can be done to you, the viewer. So it's strength training, fitness classes like circuits, bodyweight training. I'm mostly going to try and keep equipment to a minimum, but I'd say 30% of the classes are going to involve some form of equipment. It's normally going to be something that is accessible to the masses, a foam roller, an elastic band, something that could be a homemade weight, which I've shown in a previous video, but obviously I'm not expecting people to be watching this like, you know, Game of Thrones, never miss an episode. That's insane. We're going into the 25-minute territory here, but do it as long as it takes. Looking at this rain sort of paint the ground, it's it's a bit trippy. It's like looking at an old Windows screensaver or taking a bit of acid. And I'll end on that question. Steve Jobs definitely did acid, 100%. But did Bill Gates? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, you know yourself, click the like button, leave a comment on any negative thing that you think is, oh, you could have done this better, you could have done that better, particularly negative thing. But if you want to just say something nice, that's always welcome. Any other people who are interested, your mates might want fitness classes to be done free, or they might be interested in doing, be a part of the charity, then tell your mates. More people, subscribers are what this whole thing is about. It's about building a large audience. Unfortunately, even though this isn't actually live, this is a camera thing, it's going to be difficult for me to talk to people, which is sort of the attraction of live streaming something. When I'm doing gaming, which is on another channel, it's called HeadShotsForHeadCancer. If anyone is interested in that, I probably should have led with that one. That's something where I will be able to talk to the audience, but I'm not going to be able to talk to it as much doing this. So I'm going to be able to communicate, but it's got to be through comments. So if you have questions, don't text me if you happen to know me personally, because other people might have the same questions, and also it helps with the algorithm for YouTube. So do all that.